Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today I'm sharing a really affordable, really beautiful eyeshadow palette with you. This is the Siennas palette from Profusion Cosmetics. Just look at that rainbow, yeah, oh yeah. Profusion Cosmetics has really undergone an entire revamp as a brand over the past year or so. In all honesty, I had previously tried things from Profusion and I wasn't incredibly blown away. But since they've undergone a huge rebranding, I was really curious. I haven't heard too much about the new products that they've released. They were kind enough to send over a package of some of their new products, and as soon as I saw this shiny rainbow packaging, I was intrigued. I will admit I'm the kind of person that gets sucked in by rainbows. Then I started swatching this palette and playing with it, and I was really impressed. I am going to show you swatches of everything. I'll also show you a quick tutorial using this palette. I'm wearing it on my eyes today. But first, let me give you a little bit of product info. The Siennas palette has 21 eyeshadow shades. As you can see, this is all warm, toasty tones. There are two other color stories in this 21 pan format from Profusion. I'll show you some pictures of those palettes here just so that you can get a visual. One has a lot of really bright pinks and purples. The other goes more towards like chocolate browns and greens. These palettes retail for $10 US, incredibly affordable. They are available from the Profusion website as well as at Target stores. I do want to mention that Profusion Cosmetics is a cruelty-free brand, although not all of their products are vegan, but they do have the little cruelty-free bunny here. These palettes are made in China, but I believe they are not sold in the People's Republic of China. So according to their website and to the little bunny on the back of this palette, this is a cruelty-free product. The palette itself is packaged in a heavy-duty plastic. This palette does have a magnetic closure on the lid. Don't you just love that sound? As you can tell from the clear lid, there is no mirror included with this palette. The palette does come with a double-ended brush, and this is a full-size brush. Just for comparison's sake, here is the Profusion brush next to the brushes that come in the Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. So you can see this is quite a large brush. These bristles are synthetic. I haven't used the brush, but just from feeling it, it feels pretty decent. As far as brushes that are included with palettes, this one doesn't seem to be too bad. It has a very large fluffy brush on one side and then a very stiff packing flat brush on the other. When we take a look inside the Siennas palette, this one is mostly mattes. I find that pretty intriguing for a drugstore palette. In my experience, we tend to see a lot more shimmers in affordable palettes. This one is mostly mattes. There are only 7 shimmers in here. There's a mix of colorful shades and a lot of those staple neutrals. All in all, this palette does cover a lot of ground. Something that I think really sets this palette apart is that all of these shades have names and they are labeled inside next to the shadow and not on a big sticker on the back or a little plastic sheet that removes. I hate those. I think the shade names in here is a really nice detail. That may not matter to you, but it is definitely a personal preference for me. I'm gonna go ahead and show you both finger and brush swatches for this palette. I'll be swatching on the back of my hand with no primer down. The finger swatches will be on top and the brush swatches will be below. For my brush swatches, I'll be using my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush, and I'll clean the brush off in between each shade using my Veramona color switch. Here we have the top row of the palette. I know these first few shades are not showing up very well, partly because they're just close to my skin tone and partly because these two shimmers are just not very impressive pigmentation-wise. We have Polite, Exclusive, Conquest, Solstice, Dizzy, Oasis, and Daring. This is the middle row of the palette. Look at these shades. Look at this beautiful, colorful rainbow. I love these shades. And look at these brush swatches. I mean, these colorful matte shades, there are some high-end mattes that don't perform this well with a brush. And I'm just all around very impressed with how all of these shades, but particularly the matte shades, perform with a brush swatch. This gold is called Tickled. This gorgeous bright yellow matte is Serendipity. Then a bright orange matte called Dynasty. This is Certain, Bite, Fearless, and this berry matte shade is called Devoted. Here's the very last row of the palette. These are all matte shades. We have Dapper, Adventurous, Cryptic, Groovy, Madly, Outspoken, and Cozy. Now that you've seen all the swatches, I'm gonna jump into a quick tutorial using the Siennas palette, and then I'll wrap up all my thoughts at the end. First, I'm gonna prime my lids with my favorite eye base. It's the MAC Paint Pot in the shade Painterly. Then I'm gonna set that eye base with this cream colored matte shade called Polite, just so we have a nice smooth surface to work on and it's not too sticky. Now for my crease color, I'm gonna use Serendipity. This is a very bright, beautiful, mustardy yellow. I'm taking my time building that up slowly and making sure that it's all really smoothly blended around the edges. So impressed with how bright this color is. Next, I'm adding a little bit of this deeper orange called Cryptic. I'm blending that shade lower in the crease and down onto the eyelid, focused more on the outer part of the eye, but really making sure that I keep that yellow peeking out in the upper crease. Next, I'm going to start adding some shimmers. I'm using the shade Certain, and I'm applying that with my finger, just patting that all along the outer half of my eyelid. Then using a different finger, I went with Dizzy and applied that on the inner part of my lid, making sure to really tap those two shades together so that they look blended seamlessly. For my lower lash line, I'm using Adventurous on a small flat brush, just smoking that out along the lower lashes. Then for my inner corner, I'm actually using a matte shade today. This is Polite again with a small flat brush. Then I just curled my lashes and added some of the L'Oreal Lash Paradise mascara. I absolutely love how this really bright sunset eye turned out. It's bold and it's fun, but it's not too overwhelming, and I was so impressed with how easy these shades were to work with. All in all, I am extremely surprised by this palette, very impressed with the quality here. As you could see from the swatches and the tutorial, these shadows are very easy to work with. They're very smooth, very pigmented, and I'm particularly impressed by the colorful shades like that yellow and the orange. They really hold their color once they're applied to the skin. Overall, I would compare these quality-wise to the ColourPop pressed powders, which is really saying something because those are some of my favorite palettes in my collection. There are a couple of exceptions. There were a few shades here that just really were underwhelming in my opinion, particularly these two lightest shimmer shades, Exclusive and Conquest, just really didn't perform for me with finger or brush application. The other metallic shimmery shades in the palette were very smooth, very bright, and I just didn't think that those two shades lived up to the formula of the others in this palette. I think this is definitely worth the $10 price point. I am shocked and very impressed by this. However, there are a few things I would change. I think this palette is just too big, and I don't think that the shades in here justify the size. Basically, a lot of these orangey brown and reddish brown shades end up looking really, really similar once they're swatched. Oasis, Fearless, Cryptic, all those shades look the same once they're swatched. Same with Daring, Dapper, Madly, Outspoken. Those all end up looking really, really similar once they're applied to the skin, and I just don't think that those shades are necessary. I love the bright pops of color in here with that yellow, the bright orange, the berry tones. I wish that some of those repetitive, warm matte shades could have been replaced by other really bright, beautiful pops of color. Or I would love to see this palette pared down to a 12 pan palette. I'm gonna show you a mock-up of what I would do with this palette. Basically, these are the shades that I think are the most essential in here. You're gonna get the same looks, the same feeling with these 12 shades as you will with this entire 21 pan eyeshadow palette. This palette really would be perfection if they would ditch some of the repetitive shades, ditch some of those underperforming shimmers, and really pare down to the best, most interesting colors in this palette. I would love to see them either reduce the price point, go down to 12 shades, ditch the brush, keep the cool hollow packaging, or I think it would be great if they decided to ditch the brush, keep the $10 price point, but instead give us a mirror inside this palette. I would gladly pay $10 for a beautifully hollow packaged 12 pan eyeshadow palette with a mirror that has interesting, colorful, and high quality eyeshadows in it. So Profusion, if you ever want to collab, hit me up. That's just my 2 cents. That's what I would do to switch up this palette. But like I said, overall, very impressed. Definitely worth the $10 price point. I think that anybody is going to be able to enjoy this palette, whether you're a beginner or somebody who really, really loves and collects and uses a lot of palettes. This is a wonderful, affordable option. This is sold out in a lot of places, so I'm gonna try to find it online. If I can, I'll link it for you. I'd also like to try to get my hands on some of the other Profusion palettes because I am very intrigued by the Siennas palette. If you would be interested in seeing more Profusion palettes, leave a comment and let me know, and I might just have to make that happen. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think about these shades? What do you think about my remixed palette? Leave a comment and let us know. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Cool. I'm gonna get so distracted while I film this. I get distracted by rainbows. I don't think that's a bad thing. Do what? Okay. Rewind. Restart. These shit made of a heady ditty plastic, but just on fire today. Packaged in a heavy, dang it. Killing the game. Every time I wear my hair down, I regret it because it's like 90 degrees today, and I know that I cut my hair off, but it's still really thick and just, I don't know how these super glamorous beauty guru girls do it. That's just not my life. Don't even try to say that this is just a neutral palette. Look at my eyeshadow. This is orange and yellow and pink duochrome. This is not neutral. This is a really cool color palette. I like it. I feel like a summer goddess with this shimmery orange and yellow eye. Okay, who are you even talking to? Get a grip.